Welcome, everybody, to Random Wrestling Talk, episode number 32. Thank you guys for hitting the like button, whoever that may have been. Appreciate it. So I'm coming into the live stream and I see Matt87 Eagle talking to Rachel Buck, but I don't see Rachel Buck's comments in the chat. That's kind of odd. Matt87 Eagle says, Rachel Buck, have you forgotten the scandal that forced Vince to resign? So I don't know what she was saying. It's not showing her actual comments like it usually does, which is a bit odd. Um, but yeah, we got a couple of things to talk about. We're going to talk about WWE Raw from last night from September 5th, 2022 review. And then to close out the show, we're going to have and what's been going on and all the extra bonus stuff that we um, are getting out after we go over the then after the WWE Raw review. So we'll go ahead and we're probably going to be here for a while. So this is going to be a long random wrestling talk episode. Ellemester says, I don't think CM Punk is getting fired. I think he's just going to get suspended uh, suspended at the worst. So Ellemester thinks that he's going to get suspended, and that's about it. Rachel Buck says WWE is safer than AEW. Not entirely true. They are just a little bit more open to the idea of allowing their wrestlers to be a little bit more extreme. Now, that is based off of what they think they can do. Rachel Buck also says, "Do you think Cody Rhodes made a good choice to stay away from WWE? Do you think Cody Rhodes made a good choice to stay away from W? You mean AEW, not WWE? He's in WWE. Um, I have no idea. I think what's going on in AEW is a travesty. Um, I think at this point in time, based on what we're seeing, yeah, I think it was best for Cody to leave AEW because he would have been involved with a lot of dramatical bullshit that he didn't really need to be a part of. Ellemester says, what I think is going to happen is were involved in the fight will have a temporary suspension with like Eddie Kingston had. However, Ace Steel, for things he did, he is the one that's getting fired. Yeah, I have to agree with you, Ellemester. I think that what he did was absolutely ridiculous, which we'll get into once we get to that point. So anything AEW CM Punk related right now, keep that as the back burner. Don't add that in the chat because I ain't got time to talk about that right now. I want to get through the WWE Raw review first. And then once we get to that point, you guys can tell me whatever you want about AEW and CM Punk situation. And we'll go all into that once we get to it. Rachel Buck says this is what I fear. AEW will be gone in 2 years. I don't know why you would be in fear of that. You don't watch AEW. You even stated yourself the only way you watch AEW is if everyone went ahead and went to AEW from WWE. So I don't know why you would be fearful of that. You seem like to be the one happy about what's going on in AEW. You were even saying that you think they'll be gone by next year or two. So I don't know. You to me, you're a WWE fan. Here on this channel, we want every promotion to succeed and have some sort of success. So no offense, but you come across as the WWE fan mark in this chat. But I appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that you're a bit concerned about AEW and what's going on there. It shows that you have more care about professional wrestling than just WWE per se. Matt 87 Eagle says there needs to be consequences regardless of who was involved. Yeah, we'll get into that, and you guys may be surprised by the comments that come out of my mouth about what's going on and how I feel about it. Because a lot of this has a lot to do with Tony Khan. He's the runs the company, so at the end of the day, he's the one that makes the final decision on everything, just like Vince McMahon did, and so is Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. Rachel Buck says because AEW is not a safe place for wrestlers. That's your reason why you're not a fan of it. Well, these guys are choosing to do this kind of stuff. It's not like Tony Khan is telling them to go ahead and go out and do it, or else they're fired or some shit like that. They don't have to wrestle that way. They're choosing to wrestle that way. Look at MJF. He does wrestle the WWE type like style in AEW. CM Punk does the same thing. John Moxley is very much like the WWE standard. He's a little bit more stiff in the ring than he was in WWE, but he doesn't do a lot of flips and dives and all that crazy stuff. Um, and I have to agree with you, Rachel Buck, on this that them doing all these flips and dives all the time in every single match that you see and being stiff consistently all the time is not a good idea, especially when you're doing this week to week and you do this on pay-per-views. This is why AEW is suffering from injuries. WWE is doing the same, but I don't think they're suffering as bad as AEW. So to a certain extent, Rachel, I have to agree with you on that. But I don't think it's something that should tear you away from not wanting to watch the product. I think it's a lot of fun, but at the same time, there are some things that they do that is kind of questionable. Matt 87 and Eagle says, "Yeah, you're right, Rachel Buck. No one has ever been hurt in WWE." No, that's not what she's trying to say. She's trying to, and I can't believe I'm defending WWE in this sense. um, I'm the last person that would defend WWE in anything, but she has a point in that they have they've had less injuries compared to what AEW has dealt with. AEW has dealt with a ton of fucking injuries. Um, so I mean, that is something that I actually have to agree with her on. I mean, AEW is great. They do great wrestling, but at the same time, with that great wrestling, sometimes it does lead to more serious injuries than the way WWE style is. Um, so I mean, if you really look at the list of guys that are injured in WWE compared to AEW, I think WWE is doing a far better job with lowering the probability of injury. So Matt, I sorry to disagree with you, but yeah, WWE is a lot safer with their performers than AEW. And if AEW actually wrestled a little bit more like WWE's type style, like more slow and more focused on psychological type of wrestling, I think that there would be a lot less people getting injured compared to what we've seen in the last couple of months. So that's just my viewpoint on that. I don't know what you guys think about that. And then Rachel, and after I read this one, I got to get right into the review of AEW or not AEW, WWE Raw from last night. Rachel Buck says, "What in creative power?" I'd have to say WWE right now. AEW would be doing okay if the fact that they weren't having so much drama backstage. Um, Honestly, once all this drama backstage with AEW starts to get less, I think we're going to see a lot better from AEW. And I think we're all, as a whole, as wrestling fans, are going to have a lot to have a variety of choices to choose from when it comes to promotions between WWE and AEW. And if you're a hardcore fanatic like myself, and I would imagine all you guys are hardcore fanatics, you'll probably be interested in watching both promotions, which is very unheard of. Back in the day in WCW, WWE days, we used to see a lot of that um, kind of stuff where it was hard to choose between the two shows. You either choose one or the other. Here, you got the option to choose both. So I think that's an awesome deal. Retro says, "Yo, dude, what's up? I subscribed. Thank you very much, Retro. I appreciate you subscribing to the channel. Hope you enjoy the content. If you'd like to check out anything else from previous videos, go right ahead. I greatly appreciate that. I'm trying my best to get this channel where I would like it to be." Retro also says, "Hey, man, what's your thoughts on Strowman returning?" Oh, God. Really? I was just gonna get into the Raw review. You got to ask me that question. All right, my thoughts on Strowman. My thoughts on Strowman, and he's a very limited performer. I think he's great flipping cars. I think he's. We actually did see a car flipped over, and there was like steam coming out of the bottom of the car, which could have been something to do with Braun Strowman at that point. I thought it had something to do with Dexter Loomis because of the fact that it was Miz and Tommaso Ciampa during that little segment backstage during the time they came in. It was earlier during the day when they did the interview. So it was kind of weird, but yeah. Braun Strowman, he kind of destroyed the entire number one contenders match for the tag team title opportunity. So I kind of did not like that. I thought that was kind of fucked up. What but overall, I mean, I don't really care one way or another for Braun Strowman. Hopefully, maybe under Triple H's creative booking decisions, maybe he does better. But right now, from what I saw from last night, it seems to be the same Braun Strowman we've seen in the past. So, I mean, it's nothing new, it's nothing surprising, and it's nothing to get all crazy over. Matt 87 Eagle says he runs fast, and I ran to my remote control. Did you really, Matt? Did you really? Holy shit. That's fucking crazy. Retro says, I'm happy for Braun. I think he'll do better under Triple H, like you said. Okay, well, I mean, if that's the case, terrific. I'm happy that you feel that way, and I hope I'm right. I mean, I'd like to see if you're going to bring him in, make him useful. Don't just hire him and then he turns out to be an almost type character or the same old Braun Strowman we've seen in the past. It's just a waste of time and a waste of money, too. No, not to mention shit. Speaking of wasting money, TK's wasting money like fucking drunken sailor, man. I mean, with CM Punk, $5 million. Well, we'll get into that a little later in this live stream. So let's go over Monday Night Raw. I'm going to go over this real quick with you guys. So let's get into it. Yes, I will answer you in just a second, Rachel Buck, about that with Dominic. That's the first thing that started. Edge's music hits. We have Edge come out. He pretty much goes over what happened. He was very upset with Dominic. He had a really close relationship with him when he was a kid, and he felt like he was kind of like his uncle at one point. But apparently Dom doesn't feel the same way about Edge, is what he said. His attitude is based with his actions, what he did in the match from Clash at the Castle. He feels that he owes him a receipt, and his consequences is he's going to get his ass kicked. Rey Mysterio comes out, though. He wants to talk some sense into him. He understands his son made a terrible mistake by doing that to him, and that he had no right to be doing that. But it is his son and his right to reprimand his son for what he did. Now, let's get real, folks. Dominic's not a child. Dominic's an adult man at this point. He's in his early 20s or so. I mean, him talking, Rey Mysterio talking like his son is still the little boy we used to see back in 2005 with the Eddie Guerrero segment is kind of silly if you really think about it, guys. So it was kind of funny the way this was going down. Edge had nothing, didn't want to hear any of it. He wanted to kick Dominic's ass, and we find out from Rhea Ripley that Dominic has joined Judgment Day. Now, based on the situation, I know what I said. I said that Dominic looked pretty good on his own as a heel, and seeing him with Judgment Day would not be a big deal. I think it would be fine if he was by himself, but he joined Judgment Day, unfortunately. Now, with the way that Judgment Day is looking, though, uh, they look a little bit believable. I feel that even though they suffered a loss at Clash at the Castle, um, there's something about this. I feel like Dominic might benefit from this. He may look more like an adult instead of this child that we continuously look at him as because he's with his father. So I'm not sure, but we did get an announcement later on in the show that Edge will be facing Dominic next week on Raw, which should be fucking awesome. I love that Edge is performing on Raw. I think that's great. I think every once in a while Edge should perform in front of us on free television, based on whatever match he's going to get involved in. Uh, Damian Priest and Edge, I would have loved to seen that on pay-per-view though. I think that was a pay-per-view quality match. But it's not a real big deal, to be quite frank with you, but um it's all right. It's no big deal. Honestly, um so Rhea Ripley convinced Dominic to finally turn heel. I don't know what to take from this. I don't know if Dominic is Rhea Ripley's bitch or something. I have no idea. This is really a fucking weird situation. She spent like weeks, maybe a month, beating the shit out of Dominic. Apparently, Dominic must have liked the abuse or something. He's like, "Hey, Rhea Ripley, can you beat me up some more? I think I'm enjoying this." It's like fucking nuts. Damian Priest and Finn Balor. Matt 87 Eagle says she's his poppy. Wow. Talk about transgender right there. But unfortunately, she's not playing the full act of being. But yeah, he's pretty much joined the Judgment Day. Fans were chanting, "Who's your daddy?" I thought that was fucked up. Um, but yeah, pretty much everything else went downhill from there. Edge got beat up by the rest of Judgment Day, and he got a chair shot to the back of the knee, and they worked on the leg a little more. There was a coup de grace performed by Finn Balor. It wasn't done perfectly, but in a way, I'm kind of glad because if he would have hit him directly, he might have fucked up his leg bad because that chair was laying right on top of right on the back of his knee. So that would have been a bad deal if it would have actually connected in full force. Um, but yeah, that was pretty much it. Um, Nothing really else happened there. I'm just kind of going highlighting the show. I'm not going ahead and doing a full-fledged review because I'd be here forever. Usually I take about 30-40 minutes doing a full-fledged review. Here I'm just going to kind of, give you the highlights. Let me go to the match card here real quick. Give me one sec. I will go ahead and answer your comments in the chat. So give me one moment while I go ahead and look through here on the match card and get through this entire review for Raw last night. All right, so let me give you guys the breakdown of the matches. We had the WWE Raw Tag Team Title / SmackDown Tag Team Title #1 Contenders match, which was broken up by to a no contest on account of Braun Strowman. Competitors we had was Chad Gable and Otis, Angel and Herberto, the New Day with Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, and then we also had the Street Profits. This match went about 14 minutes and 30 seconds based off of cagematch.net. Then we had a non-tag team title match with Aaliyah and Raquel Rodriguez against Doudrop and Nikki Ash for 3 minutes and 44 seconds. And Aaliyah and Raquel Rodriguez win the matchup. We also had a Kevin Owens versus Austin Theory match. This was actually the best match on the entire card. Very fun matchup. Kevin Owens wins against Austin Theory in 16 minutes and 56 seconds. Daniel, it's great to see you, man. Thank you for showing up, man. Appreciate it. Um, then we had a singles match with Damian Priest versus Rey Mysterio that went about 13 minutes. Damian Priest picked up the victory in this matchup with a South of Heaven choke slam. It was a good matchup. I enjoyed that one. That was pretty decent. And then the U.S. Championship match between Miz and Bobby Lashley wasn't all that bad inside of a steel cage, but I didn't particularly see that as something that should have been the main event of the show. I think they could have moved that towards like where Damian Priest and Rey Mysterio was and just basically flip flop them. That's what I would have done. I didn't particularly see this as something as main event quality, but at the end of the match, we did see Dexter Loomis come from underneath the ring and then get in the ring and choke out Miz, which was pretty nice way of ending the show. But yeah, that's the incomplete match card. Let me go over now to the other segments that took place on the show. All right, so I already discussed about the match card and everything else. Nothing big there. So Braun Strowman, yeah, blah 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 with Braun Strowman. I'm sorry, Retro, but I'm not a huge fan of Braun Strowman. I was until they killed it with Brock Lesnar and him at the No Mercy 2017 pay per view. That really killed my enjoyment of Braun Strowman at that point. I couldn't take him serious anymore. All right, so we also got to mention that Braun Strowman will be coming to SmackDown. I don't know what he's going to do different there outside of making uh, uh loads of carnage or something. So I don't know. Uh yeah, I talked about the non-title match, Raquel Rodriguez and Aaliyah against Dewdrop and Nikki Trash. Nikki, almost a superhero. You're not a superhero then. You're nothing. You're just trash. Anyway, Sarah Schreiber catches up with Rey Mysterio. Rey says he'll have a word in private with his son. Judgment Day has been tearing his life apart. They're taking away his son, and they took out Edge, who is like family to him. Rey will never lay his hands on his son, but Judgment Day deserves to get their asses beat. Rey challenges either Finn Balor or Damian Priest to a match tonight. They can figure out who. And that's basically it. And we all know what happened. It was Damian Priest who actually competed against Rey Mysterio later on in the night. Um, then we move on to the Money in the Bank briefcase holder, which is Austin Theory. He makes his way down to the ring. The crowd loudly boos Theory, who is still holding his jaw after being punched by Tyson Fury on Saturday. By the way, I don't know if you guys have rewatched that punch, but Tyson Fury never really connected with that punch whatsoever. He kind of connected in the back of his head or some shit. He never hit him in the jaw at all. So, I mean, they could have played he had a concussion, but I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. I mean, honestly, if he punched Austin Theory in the face, he would have literally broke his jaw more than likely. I think he's very capable of doing that. I mean, he's a heavyweight boxer. So, if you're a heavyweight boxer, Austin Theory, if he was a boxer, I think he'd probably be a middleweight, maybe a light heavyweight, possibly. But that's pretty much where I would see him placed in boxing if he was actually in that sport. Um, so he gets a lot of boos. Theory says things didn't go as planned on Saturday, but Crown Jewel was an absolute success. Then he kids around, kind of selling, I guess, the jaw shot that he got from Tyson Fury, the quote unquote jaw shot. So he says Theory's upset and yells at the crowd to shut their mouths while adjusting his jaw. I'm really liking Theory now. He's coming across from the evolved type Austin Theory, not this Austin Theory who does selfies. I thought that was fucking ridiculous. Have him take selfies like he's some freaking weirdo. Um, right now he looks like he has a pair of balls, and he actually is badass. He's got a lot of confidence in himself and so forth. So to me, he is actually coming across as a success to the creative portion of his character. I think they're doing a good job with him, and thankfully they got rid of the selfie bullshit. Um, so everyone wanted to see him fail at his cash in, but he's still the youngest money in the Mr. Money in the Bank in WWE history. That guarantees that he is the future undisputed champion. The difference between him and the people is when he gets knocked down, he gets back up, even against a boxer like Tyson Fury. Roman Reigns is still the champion, but he's actually glad he is. For one, Drew McIntyre completely embarrassed himself in front of his friends and family. Second, Theory and Roman Reigns have unfinished business. Theory trips over his words and grabs his jaw. Theory says he'll soon end Reigns' 2-year reign as world champion, and then he'll be the undisputed WWE Universal Champion. Kevin Owens actually shows up after this, after he finishes up what he had to say, and he comes out to the stage looking perplexed. Owens asks, "What's wrong with Theory's jaw?" Owens then remembers that Theory got knocked out the hell out. You got knocked the hell out, chant picks up. Owens then says that Theory got KO'd. Oh, you got KO'd. Then picks up from the fans. Owens smiles. Owens says he's just realized that he found his first name again. Owens can call him Austin now. Owens despises arrogant and delusional people in this industry. They've had some arrogant and delusional people in WWE, but currently Theory is at the very top of that list. A great example of how delusional he is Theory complaining about Tyson Fury. If he didn't do that cash in at the Clash at the Castle, he'd have been buried by Roman Reigns or Drew McIntyre. I love Kevin Owens, man. He has been killing it on Raw. Everybody is doing better on Raw. SmackDown, here and there, there's some success going on with that, but Raw has really picked up. They have become the flagship show of WWE once again. They are doing some amazing stuff, even without the world champion on the show. I've been very impressed with how well they've been utilizing everybody who aren't even a champion and utilizing them very well to make them top tier talent. I think that's terrific. I love what Kevin Owens has been doing on the show thanks to Triple H's creative decisions. Um, I give him a lot of kudos, Triple H, for what he has done without having a world champion on the show every week. It's been terrific. So I have no complaints about him. Um, long story short, they pretty much led to Kevin Owens saying, this is getting a little ridiculous. You know where this is going. A referee is going to come into this ring, and then I'm going to say it's time for us to stop talking and let's fight. And that's pretty much what happened. We have the match. Austin Theory loses to Kevin Owens with a pop-up power bomb and a stunner, and he gets the 1-2-3 for the victory. So I'm really happy with Austin Theory and Kevin Owens. They both were really good. Fortunately, somebody had to suffer a loss. Kevin Owens is on a hot streak. I think they made the right decision here. Austin Theory has had some wins here since Triple H has taken over creative, with him being the briefcase holder, and he's been getting wins under his belt. So I think we can all say that the one loss against Kevin Owens ain't going to really hurt him any. I think he's had a lot more wins than losses since this is all started with Triple H and creative. So let's get to The next segment, Kevin Owens wins. Owens poses on a turnbuckle and shouts that this is the Kevin Owens show. Speaking of Kevin Owens, he actually did a shout out to CM Punk after the media scrum of him showing himself in Stone Cold Steve Austin main eventing night one of WrestleMania this year. I thought that was a nice little jab to CM Punk. And him and Kevin Owens and the Young Bucks are actually best friends in real life. And I think that's the reason why he did it. Kudos to him. I think he is one hell of a dude. What he has gone through with WWE being an absolute joke, still making it work somehow, and given such a disadvantage in creative that he has managed to be an amazing, amazing performer on television, regardless of what he is given, whether it's making a mockery out of himself. He's been funny with Ezekiel. I've enjoyed some of that. I thought some of it was kind of cringe, but he has tried to make everything he has worked with the best he can. And I think that's great. The match he had with Roman Reigns back on 2021 Royal Rumble was excellent. It actually could have been believable for him to win based on the way he was being pushed for the couple of months during that rivalry they had. I actually loved that. I thought Kevin Owens could have been the guy to dethrone Roman Reigns, but this direction was actually a lot better, and I'm not going to complain about it. A 2-year reign as world champion is very impressive. Never been done before, and it's helped the SmackDown ratings in some cases based on the storylines that they would do. If his storylines were trash, well, people didn't give a flying fuck about SmackDown. So that's all I got to say about that. All right, so The Miz is talking with Ciampa backstage. Comes up from behind and startles Miz. Miz says he's not talking about the man whose name shall not be mentioned. Ciampa says Miz is facing Bobby Lashley in a steel cage match because he wants to prove he's better than Lashley. It's not to keep out he who shall not be named. Miz says he's faced persecution throughout his career and has always proved the doubters wrong. Tonight will be no different. And that's pretty much what he had to say there. Tommaso Ciampa, I got to admit, needs to get away from Miz. He's kind of becoming a nothing with Miz. Miz is not really, he's being like treated better creatively, but it's like, where is Tommaso Ciampa benefiting being with the Miz? And Miz doesn't really need Tommaso Ciampa, honestly. So I think they could break these two up and it wouldn't hurt either one of them. I'd like to see the Miz get pushed a little bit better and actually act a little bit better than he has in the past, being a fucking complete joke. So I'm kind of hoping that we get something from that. So what else? Damage control consisting of Bailey, Dakota Kai, and Io Sky makes their way to the ring. Bailey says, "Ding dong, hello idiots." It is them, the three women who were victorious at Clash of the Castle when they beat Asuka, Alexa Bliss, and Bianca Belair. Dakota Kai says, if they can do that to their best, imagine what they can do to the rest of the women's roster. They are taking control. Sky speaks in Japanese. She says they will be taking the WWE's women's tag team titles. And Kai says she wasn't legal last week, which is kind of, I forgot about that. I didn't know that she was legal or not. And that's kind of cool. It gives a reason why they won the match and why they shouldn't be the champion. So I think they're going to win the titles and officially be the tag team champions. And I guess they were just trying to surprise us with a shocking ending or something like that. And they realized that it really didn't work and it was a fail. So they're moving on with Dakota Kai and Io Sky. So they were just trying to take a risk. I'm a little bit more reassuring that you might actually have a chance of succeeding, because there was no chance in hell this was going to succeed at all. I don't think anyone gave a fucking shit about Aaliyah and Raquel Rodriguez winning the tag team titles for the women's division. I don't think one person gave a shit. So Bailey says they preserved through that unfair decision, and she pinned Bianca Belair. Bailey is the first person to pin Belair in almost 300 days. Raw's women's champion Bianca Belair comes out to the ring. Belair says Bailey may have gotten the best of her at Clash of the Castle, but she put her pride to the side to show a match right now tonight. Bailey says, "Shush, please," mocking Chad Gable. Bailey says it's Labor Day, so she's not working today. All they're doing is celebrating that Bailey beat Belair. Love it. Belair looks confused. The last time she checked, it took the three of them to take her down. If that's what it takes to make Bailey feel like she's in control, then that's fine as well. Belair gets in the ring. Bailey might have her little minions, but she has the gold. Belair holds up the title unless it's one-on-one, and unless she's got pretty much at the end of all this, long story short again. Yes, Matthew Consuelo, the stream did start at 8:30. That is when the stream officially starts every Tuesday night on the dot every time. That's 8:30 Eastern Standard Time, depending on where you're located. If you're in a foreign country, it's actually it's probably later for you. I'm not sure. I think I remember you saying you're from Africa, I think. I had someone on the Monday night live stream saying that they were from Africa or something like that. Oh, you're from the U.S. What part of the U.S. are you? West Coast or East Coast or Central? Yeah, I had someone on here for a live stream of Monday Night Raw a couple of months back, and they were from a foreign country. They were watching it at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, dude, really? What are you doing? Wasting your time at 4 o'clock in the morning during this piece of shit Vincent Mann creative booking show? It was trash. 3 hours and I got sick on top of it. I was a real fucking joke. All right, so long story short, getting into it, she pretty much says that you're gonna have to get through these other two women to get to me, and that's basically she has Sky and Kai standing in front of her, and her standing in the back, and that's pretty much all. Rey Mysterio is walking backstage. He'll face Damian Priest next. Replays are shown of an excellent reaction Drew McIntyre got during his entrance at the Clash of the Castle, and then Sarah Schreiber asked Johnny Gargano about Austin Theory's comments that Gargano is swimming with sharks. Gargano says that Theory may have forgotten what he can do in the ring, but he'll show them. Theory says nobody cares since Gargano came back. All he has done is talk. He should be Johnny talking instead of Johnny wrestling. Gargano says Theory is 100% next week on Raw. Johnny Wrestling will return to action. Gargano tells Theory to be careful of the sharks. All right, so we get Rey Mysterio, Damian Priest. That was a good matchup. I thought that was pretty decent. So yeah, winner was Damian Priest. His son actually interfered in the middle of this match. So let me see here. Rhea Ripley says now that Damian Priest is done with Rey Mysterio, there's just one more man left in the way. Dominic will send him back into retirement. What Poppy wants, Poppy gets. Oh my God. This woman's she's a woman. She's acted like she's a man. This is fucking crazy. All right, so that's why Dominic will set up the challenge next week on Monday Night Raw to go one-on-one with Edge. That should be a good match. I really think that should be the main event, easily, without question. All right, Sarah Striebler interviews backstage with the U.S. champion, Bobby Lashley. She says Miz said he would beat him tonight instead of inside the steel cage. Lashley says that isn't very wise. Miz thinks being in the steel cage will save him from Dexter Loomis, but he'll be in the cage with the most dangerous man in WWE. When that door closes, he'll need to worry about being in the ring with the Almighty. We all know what's going to happen with good old Bobby Lashley and Miz. That was the main event. Nothing special there. And we then saw Dexter Loomis choke out the Miz during that segment. So, or the end of the match. Speaking of that, after the show from the Clash at the Castle, Sarah Schreiber asked Matt Riddle where his head is at. Well, his head was very swollen. I will tell you guys that. If you look at the forehead where the bridge of the nose and the eyebrow is, he had a humongous bulging of pressure. Pressure. Just a lot of swelling by where the bridge of his nose and eyebrows are. And he looked pretty bad. I mean, it looked like Tyson Fury punched him in the fucking face. That's the best way to describe it. It looked like Tyson Fury punched him in the face and not the Seth Rollins stomping his head into the fucking mat. Because that's where I think he got the swelling from. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys, for the portion of the Raw review. Let me go into the comments that I have not yet read or responded to yet. So I greatly appreciate your patience and everything else on that. So let me go into that and go over where we left off here. All right. I already answered Retro and what he had to say. Okay. Mitchell Buck, she says, what do you think of Dominic going heel and joining Judgment Day? Well, I kind of gave my explanation of that. I feel that Judgment Day might benefit with being with them. So yeah, I don't see any harm in that. I would have been really happy with him being a heel on his own, not really joining Judgment Day, because that would have been the obvious thing to do. But still, at the end of the day, I don't really have a big issue with him joining Judgment Day. I trust that Triple H could do a good job with him being part of the group, and we'll just have to see where that goes. Rachel Buck says Dominic is like Eddie and Rhea is China. Huh. Didn't think about that. He does have the hairstyle of Eddie Guerrero back in the day when he was starting out in wrestling. I have to admit that. I didn't notice that last night. I already read Matt 87 Eagle about she's his poppy. Rachel Buck says Rhea said she likes China and Dominic is like Eddie. Oh, okay. I didn't hear that one. That was in one of her promos, Rachel? That was the case. I did not hear that part. Matt 87 Eagle says, no, seriously, Dom joining Judgment Day is great because the guy had no character direction until he turned heel. Yeah, I have to admit that with him teaming with his father, it didn't really go anywhere for him. Personally, if he would have joined NXT by himself or joined with Santos Escobar's group, I think he would have benefited a lot more. But it is what it is, you know. I don't think he's done terrible with his father. It's just that he's gotten, like Matt said, there's no direction for him. So Matt 87 Eagle says, what a waste of 14 to 15 minutes of time to just bury the entire tag team division. I have to agree. They could have used Braun Strowman in a different segment. They didn't have to do that. Maybe they're not looking for a number one contenders opponents for the tag team titles at this point. I'm not sure. Rachel says after the show ended, Dexter kidnapped Miz again. Wow. He got kidnapped. All right. Wonderful. Matt 87 Eagle says Raw needs the world title on the show to give people something to fight for. That's going to happen when Cody wins the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. And we're going to have one undisputed world title. We're not going to see him carrying around those two fucking belts. That is not going to happen. All right. Rachel Buck was correcting her last statement. I already just talked to Matthew Consuelo. Matthew Consuelo had a couple other comments. Do you see Kenny Omega going to WWE if the drama continues? Well, we're going to get into that. Thank you for bringing that up. That brings us right into the main thing about this entire episode 32 Random Wrestling Talk episode is about is CM Punk, the drama backstage, and also Kenny Omega got to experience what it was like to be bitten like Evander Holyfield had when Mike Tyson bit off his fucking ear. Oh my God, man. What the fuck happened backstage, man? I really would have loved to be a fly on the wall in that locker room when they were talking to each other and then that brawl broke out. I really would love to be a fly on that wall just to be able to understand how all this broke down. Because the wrestling critics that are coming out with this story are not really giving a whole lot of detail of what was discussed to lead to them to have this fist fight situation take place. All we know is Punk was walking down the hallway after his medium scrum section, and he comes in and he's walking down the hall. And I guess they heard what he said. If you got a problem, confront me and we'll talk about it. So he did, and it led to a fist fight. What the fuck? Like, what the hell are you all doing back there, man? I mean, we got chairs flying and hitting Nick Jackson in the fucking eye, from what I heard. We got, oh my God. We got CM Punk starting throwing the first punch, and I don't know what conveyed him to go ahead and throw a punch first. I don't know what the fuck who said what. I don't know what was said to make CM Punk want to go out of his way just to punch somebody. Let's think about this rationally and logically. You're the top dog. You're producing supposedly to Tony Khan. You're giving him the most revenue in his business, right? You go ahead and you're making $5 million a year in a contract that you signed. And on top of that, you only have to work one day out of the week. Why in the fuck? I don't care how big of an ego you have. Why would you, in God's name, jeopardize a good situation like that? Anyone in the chat, please go ahead and hit a 1 or a 2. Hit 1 if you would not jeopardize your opportunity in CM Punk's situation, or hit 2 that you would. Go ahead. I'd like to see what the reaction is. Is it going to be 1 or is it going to be a 2? Don't be shy, guys. I got 6 people live here. Go ahead and leave your comment. Rachel Buck says 1. All right. Someone with logic. Daniel, 1. All right. 2 for 2. People got logic. Matthew Consuelo, 1. Thank you. 3 for 3. Retro, 1. 3 for 3. All right. 4 for 4. Excuse me. You guys are saying things that make sense. Where does CM Punk make any sense? This is like the booking of WWE's mentality back before Triple H took over creative. Matt 87 Eagle says 1, 2. Like, come on, guys. Let's think about this. Does this make any logical sense to you guys? Is it me, or does it seem like CM Punk is purposely just trying to get fired? And if he is trying to get fired, why doesn't he just say to Tony Khan, I quit? He doesn't have to throw punches. He doesn't have to do any of this barbaric shit he's doing backstage. He's got Ace Steel backstage biting people, biting Kenny Omega, which, by the way, Matthew Consuelo, let me answer your question. Do you see Kenny Omega going to WWE? I don't know. I don't fucking know about that one. I really don't. I am not sure 100% what he would do. I don't think he would, but honestly, I think that would be beneficial to him in a certain extent. I think Cody would probably welcome him back with open arms. I believe they were having problems backstage because of creative decisions on the direction they wanted the show to go. But I don't think they had any real beef with one another in a personal sense. So I kind of think that people would I think Cody would accept Kenny Omega and try to convince him to join WWE. Uh so I don't know, man. I don't understand who in their fucking right mind would do this except a psycho like CM Punk. that's that's all I can say. I mean, the man sitting in a media scrum, and I stated this on my second portion of the All Out review. I'm sitting there and I'm watching this video in the morning because my friend Matt 87 Eagle told me about this because he watched it after the show went off the air. I didn't even bother with it. I no lie, guys, I actually fell asleep in the main event. I passed out to sleep. That's how fucking boring that show was to me. There were some good matches, about 4 good matches. Four matches to be fair. But man, this guy CM Punk is a fucking cancer. He's like Vincent McMahon to WWE. This guy's got to go. I'm sorry. I really like CM Punk's character. I like his wrestling, but him personally, he's really let me down a lot. I'm very disappointed in him. Him going ahead and going on a media scrum, talking about Hangman Page, all the shit that has been talked about has been beyond belief for the last 2 weeks leading into this pay-per-view. I mean, it's hurt the pay-per-view overall. Let's face facts. Even Tony Khan admitted during the media scrum that the fucking pay-per-view wasn't as successful as he thought it would be. And he was disappointed about that. I don't blame him one bit. Yeah, Elemester, he says, I just wish Punk didn't let his ego get the best of him. Yeah, I mean, come on, man. I was saying this. To myself. I was talking to my roommate about this too. I mean, my roommate can't fucking stand that guy. He can't stand CM Punk. He thinks he's a fucking two-faced phony. And that's what everybody in the locker room are now saying about CM Punk. He is a fucking two-face. And truth is showing that. Look at his comments. Look at what he's been saying about like Sasha Banks and Naomi. He said, with loyalty backstage will bring unity. With division will bring failure. This guy is completely divided away from his group. His locker room, most of them can't fucking stand him. And he's the world heavyweight champion, and he's got the owner of the company wrapped around his fingers. I mean, the guy is fucking retarded. He's got everything he could possibly want. Everything he wanted in WWE, he's got in AEW. Why the fuck is he throwing this all away for? What? Because he's got a couple of people in the company that don't like him? So what? He knows what the fuck that's like working in WWE. And he overexcelled in WWE. Here, he's been a fucking joke. I don't know, man. I don't know what you guys think about this, but I think CM Punk lost his passion, his ability to really do things in professional wrestling when he went to UFC. I think UFC beat the shit out of him. He lost his confidence. He lost who he was. He's very insecure. He worries too damn much about everybody else in the locker room. And my attitude is I would do the best job possible um that he can do to help out that entire locker room and earn their fucking respect. Not go ahead and say, "Oh, I've already earned your respect. I'm a veteran in this business." If they don't want your advice, who the fuck cares? That was something else he was complaining about. His attitude was, "I'm mad at some of the guys in the back because they don't want to take my advice or from veterans." Well, if they don't want to take advice from the veterans and they're not making it, well, that's their problem. They're going to get fired at some point. Fuck them. I mean, he did have some valid points. Like, you get a guy like Terry Funk, who's one of the best hardcore wrestlers in the business. Darby Allin would die to learn some stuff from him. I mean, Darby Allin's a hardcore wrestler anyway. If ECW is still around, that's where we'd see Darby Allin anyway. But my point being is that Terry Funk is a great wrestler for hardcore wrestling. Anyone that's a hardcore wrestler would learn a lot from him and should want to take his advice. Um, Dean Malenko, he's a great person to go to. I think he was an underrated wrestler. He may not have been able to cut the best promos. He didn't have a charismatic personality, but that guy could get in a ring and fucking wrestle. I love watching WCW and watching his matches. He was an amazing performer and one of the most underrated wrestlers of all time. So, just my viewpoint on that. Let me go over the comments here and we'll talk a little more about the rest of this drama show. And I'll give you guys my insight and what I think Tony Khan needs to do. And I got a lot to say about Tony Khan because he's the biggest problem in this fucking company outside of CM Punk. Rachel Buck says he's acting like a baby talking about CM Punk. Absolutely, 100%. Move on from the problem. Don't worry about it. It's over and done with. You're the fucking world champion making $5 million a year. You work one day out of the week. I think anybody in the fucking world wish they had a job like that. I know I do. Shit. I hate my fucking job. I mean, I enjoy the fact that it's very peaceful. I don't have to talk to anybody on the phone and shit like that. But man, you have to keep up with your numbers working for my company. And you got to do it every fucking day or you can fall behind. That's not easy to do. You do what he's doing every fucking once a week? I mean, yeah, they get hurt. They're in pain. I mean, one match is painful enough. I think any of us that got in the middle of that ring would say, "Ow, that really fucking hurts." I got this Jay Lethal's got a wrestling school in Tampa slash St. Petersburg called the Wrestling Lab. I'm going to actually join that after I move out of this apartment that I'm in and see what they're charging per week or per month for me to be able to participate in their school. And I'd love to be able to speak to Jay Lethal because he is heavily involved in this shit. He knows exactly what's going on backstage. I don't think he's going to want to go into detail with that with me directly because he might be worried I might spill beans to the media or some shit like that, or talk about it on my own YouTube channel or some shit. And he probably wouldn't want that spilled all over the social media platforms and shit like that. But I would love to get into AEW. I really think I'd make a huge difference. I think that what Tony Khan needs is a fucking backbone because it seems like he doesn't have one right now at this point. This guy should be fucking pissed off what's going on in his company. I mean, all this shit. This is fucking ridiculous. If I was an owner of the company, this shit wouldn't be going on. CM Punk wouldn't have sat there in the media scrum, sitting there and talking all this shit. I said, look, Punk, chill the fuck out. It's old news. Let's move on and pass this shit. And folks, in the press conference, let's not talk about anything personal. No personal questions. I don't want to hear any personal questions or this fucking media scrum's done and over with and we're done doing this shit. I'd have said, fuck this shit. I'd have told everyone you can all pack your shit and get the fuck out of here. I don't need this crap. This guy deals with a ton of fucking shit. He is putting way too much pressure on himself. He's got Ring of Honor and AEW to worry about all at the same time. He's also got a business with his father with fucking Jaguars. I mean, this guy's got 3 different projects he works on all through the year. And then he's got CM Punk aggravating the poor son of a bitch even more. What is the fucking point of that? Punk should be getting on his hands and knees and kissing this man's ass. Instead, it's the other way around. Tony Khan is doing everything he can to make CM Punk happy. I wouldn't be worrying about making CM Punk happy. He already made him happy. He gave him $5 million and he works one day a week. Who the fuck else would want that? I mean, a lot of people would want that. And he's the number 1 guy in the company. He's got the world championship, and the whole fucking promotion is centered around him. Like he's fucking Hulk Hogan or something. He couldn't kiss Hulk Hogan's ass. And I'm not a huge fan of Hogan anymore because of what he did in his own personal life. I think the guy was a fucking douchebag for what he did. But at least Hogan was a huger draw than fucking CM Punk. Nobody can debate that with me. And if you want to debate that with me, go ahead and leave. Okay? I mean, without Hogan, there wouldn't have been a WrestleMania. The fucking slogan Hulkamania came from WrestleMania. Hulkamania, that slogan came before WrestleMania ever came to existence. When he first won the World Heavyweight Championship, he said his fans are Hulkamania. So Vince McMahon came up with the idea of that and turned it into WrestleMania. And then it became a success after a huge gamble that could have possibly ruined the company, possibly. So anybody that wants to debate with me that Hogan wasn't that big of a draw, or he wasn't the reason why WWE didn't make it the way they did, they're crazy. Now, there was other aspects. Macho Man, Ultimate Warrior, Ric Flair for a short period of time made that company good. Bret the Hitman Hart, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, the list goes on and on. But Hogan was the first one to actually make WWE the way it is today. All the other names came after him. And they were huge contributors to the company. Absolutely, 100%. So, there you go. But no, I'm not a huge fan of Hulk Hogan. I'm not going to sell you guys Hogan's a great guy. But at the end of the day, he was the first big name in professional wrestling. Ric Flair was great at professional wrestling. He wasn't an actual entertainer, Ric Flair. He knew how to sell. He knew how to do psychological wrestling. And he was a great performer when it came to actually wrestling in the ring. He was a technical wrestler. But he did not live up to the charismatic mentality of Hulk Hogan. He was good at what he did. He played a great heel. He had the woo. He had the good slogans. He dressed real nice. He looked badass. He was very admirable. He lived the kind of life that every man wished they could live, But he did not have the type of mentality that that Hogan had. And the reason why is Hogan was all about United States. He was an Americana type of character. When you start going political with your character, like Hogan was at the time, which nobody ever did until Hogan started that idea, that was huge. That's why Sergeant Slaughter turning on America and joining the Iraqis, the Arabs, in that sense, in that storyline. And at that time, we were actually fighting the Arabs at that point in time during George Bush Sr. And we saw WrestleMania 7, those two guys clashing. That was a humongous fucking story. So there you go, guys. That's the explanation why Hulk Hogan was such a big character. And then joining WCW, he became NWO and became the biggest prick in professional wrestling. And actually portrayed who he really is. A fucking piece of shit. That's all there was to it. Anyway, let me continue on here. Matthew Consuelo says Cody Rhodes living his best life. Yeah, I think he's doing that right now with WWE outside of the injury he had. LMSer says AEW won't die, I don't think. Well, like I said, they better Tony Khan better put on his big boy pants and start running shit, or he may see it get run into the ground. And that's not what I want to see, guys. That's the last thing I want to see. I want to see AEW strive and succeed. LMSer also states, I just wish Punk didn't let his ego get in the way, which we already discussed. And I agree with you on that, LMSer. I think that his ego is ruining this company, and he's turning out to be like the 2012 CM Punk, where he blamed the fans for why he turned heel and acted like a prick, which had nothing to do with the fans. The fans, I know it was a storyline, but the mentality that he was portraying in that storyline is who he's acting as in real life. It's very bizarre. Um, and it's like you're getting everything you ever wanted in uh WWE in AEW with Tony Khan. Tony Khan is treating you like Hulk Hogan of AEW. So appreciate it. Don't worry about all the people that don't like you. You know what that's like. You had it in WWE. You got past it and you made a success story out of it. So who gives a shit? Earn the respect of the guys that don't like you now, and if you don't, well, fuck them. Who cares? That's my attitude. That's what I'd do. I'm getting paid $5 million. I ain't jeopardizing that. I got a wife. I'm pretty sure he might have a kid. Maybe I'm not sure. And he's got a home to take care of. $5 million ain't nothing to play with, man. You gotta fucking take that shit. I wouldn't fucking throw that in the garbage for fucking ego. Are you kidding me? I'd take my ego and put it at the fucking door. I'd leave it at the door, man. I wouldn't care about that. My care would be helping this company, hoping that maybe I can get the respect of everybody backstage. So this drama and shit with everyone having friction with me ends so that we could get along better and work better together. And I'd move past all this shit. Otherwise, I just keep doing what I'm doing and everybody can go fuck themselves at the end of the day. That's all I do. I don't give a fuck about what everyone else thinks about me. He's fucking CM Punk, man. I mean, the guy is freaking great at what he does. And he's ruining his reputation, which I see a couple of you mentioning that, which I'll get into that in just a sec. And he's throwing it in the freaking ground. He's lost a fan to me. 100%. I don't give a fuck about CM Punk. I hope, and I'll get into I was about to reveal what I was going to say. I don't want to reveal it yet. I want to get through these chats. So let me go ahead and do that. LMester also says, to be honest, just turn him heel. Plain and simple. I mean, it would work, but with what happened backstage, I don't know what the fuck you could do with that. And I'm going to explain why in just a moment. LMester also states that Punk was so overrated, plain and simple. Daniel says he ruined his reputation, in my opinion. Yep. I totally agree with you, man. He lost me as a fan, man. I was a huge fan of CM Punk. I thought he was real for who he was. I liked how he was a rebel against the system. And yet at the end of the day, he's just like all the other scumbags, like a Hulk Hogan. I mean, look what Hogan did in WCW and Bash at the Beach. Vince McMahon did, not Vince McMahon, Vince Russo didn't take that shit. He had every right to be pissed at Hogan. I mean, granted, Jeff Jarrett, I mean, it's a gamble. I think it was kind of cool that he was trying to go for new names to become world heavyweight champion. But, I mean, Hogan losing to Jeff Jarrett, I don't know. I think that was kind of a fucked up situation altogether. So I'm not going to really get into that. I don't know the story behind it too well. But Vince Russo did not take that kind of shit from Hogan with him using his political bullshit to get in the way of the creative booking that Vince Russo was trying to do. And I guarantee you, folks, if CM Punk and Vince Russo were sitting at this media scrum and he was doing this kind of shit, Vince Russo would tell him to shut the fuck up. Let's move on from this and let's get on with the actual show and discuss that. Otherwise, get the hell out of here. That's what he would do. All right. So LMSer says, would you buy into a CM Punk heel turn? I don't really care, honestly, LMSer. I I don't give a shit if he's heel, face. A lot of what he's been doing lately is heel like mentality. Um, so if he turns heel, great. One way or another, I don't give a fuck. I want to see MJF beat the living shit out of him. Personally, I want to see him get his ass kicked. I think what he's done backstage has totally ruined this fucking company. Not totally, like ruin it to the point where there's no return, but I'm telling you guys, this guy CM Punk is becoming like a Vince McMahon to WWE. And the worst part is he's a fucking wrestler, not a creator. So there's a way of getting him out of office quick or getting this shit straight out with him before it gets any worse. Just my viewpoint. All right. So Rachel Buck says Dexter Lumis abducted Miz after Raw goes off the air. Yes, you already stated that before. Rachel Buck also says, I agree with you. I think that had to do with the CM Punk conversation from earlier. Daniel says, I feel like when WWE got better, Punk's ego is making things worse for AEW. That's a very interesting position you got there, Daniel. I'm not sure. I don't know what the fuck happened here. Triple H takes over creative, and then all of a sudden AEW fumbles the ball, and they're just like they're like in shambles at this point. I don't know why, outside of CM Punk being a fucking dick and everyone hating his guts. I don't know, man. LMester says CM Punk indirectly turned heel. And Matt 87 Eagle says, still a fan of CM Punk, but this is one hell of a black eye on Punk. I don't know why you'd be a fan of his, Matt, because he's taking what we loved before WWE finally got the right guy in office for creative. Everybody turned on WWE for Vince McMahon's terrible booking, and Tony Khan gave us an alternative and something to actually bite into and enjoy. And now we're seeing what we loved for the last 3 years get turned into garbage because of what CM Punk is doing in this promotion. And if it's not stopped at some point, we are going to say goodbye to AEW. I don't want that. I want to see AEW flourish. I want them to get better. And I want them to get to the level of what WWE's been doing. Going once in a while to stadiums and doing stadium performances in front of a humongous audience like Clash at the Castle. I want to see them be able to have 2 million views on their fucking episodes of Dynamite and maybe 1 million views on Rampage every fucking week. I want to see them do that. I want to see them be able to be competitive without working on the same night as WWE. I would just want to see them get better. And right now, they're just maintaining their audience, but not growing each and every week with a couple of thousands of people. Like Triple H said before, this is a marathon, not a sprint. So that's the way this has got to be treated. And I don't know what the hell is going on with Tony Khan. LMSer says, so you think AEW would be better without Punk? Absolutely. Look what happened with Cody Rhodes. Did AEW guys, did AEW collapse when Cody Rhodes left? Did they lose anything? Did the fans go crazy and stop watching AEW because Cody Rhodes didn't like the direction of the company and that he wasn't being positioned as the number one guy on the promotion that he technically booked himself out of? Rachel Buck says, no. What do you mean by no? Are you referring to LMSer's question or are you referring to what I'm saying about AEW going way up from Cody leaving? Um, but yeah, AEW didn't fold. They flourished. They had other people replacing them. They have that now. If if CM Punk is unreliable to be professional, he needs to go. He needs to get out of the company. We got a guy that can give you better ratings than CM Punk. You want to know who his name is? He's the devil. It's called MJF. MJF has cut. I've looked at the ratings and I've seen what the comparison between MJF and and MJF and CM Punk. And I'm sorry to tell you guys, if it wasn't for the fact of Tony Khan putting CM Punk in the first segment of the show every fucking week when he was there, um those ratings were not exactly that good on his segments if it wasn't the first sequence of the show. MJF, you could put him on any place on that card, any place on the show, beginning, middle, end, the segment just before the end. It wouldn't matter. As long as people knew that MJF was going to be on that show, people were going to watch that segment. Every fucking segment that MJF ever had was controversial, meaningful, powerful, and emotional. It got you to hate his guts, and that's what he's about. That's what he said before he left, before they cut him off television. He made people feel something. That's what wrestling's missing today. We need to start feeling something in these storylines. I won't deny CM Punk of his ability to make people feel something. Look at the storylines he had with Darby Allin, the storyline with Eddie Kingston, MJF with their past history when he was a kid and CM Punk was just coming up in the WWE. All of what CM Punk did was meaningful. They made you feel something. His thing with Hangman Page was another one. Granted, apparently CM Punk took it a little too personal with what Hangman Page said about the Colt Cabana shit. But, you know, it is what it is at this point. There's nothing we can do about it. Nor can CM Punk, Hangman Page, or anyone else. CM Punk's got to let this shit go. Take a fucking relaxer or something. Chill the fuck out. You got everything going for you and you're going to throw it away for some fucking comment Hangman Page said? You're going to throw it away because of Colt Cabana being a fucking asshole 10 years ago with you? I mean, the owner of the company was going to bend over backwards so you could have him gone. Now, granted, CM Punk said, I had no intentions of wanting Colt Cabana getting fired and removed from the company just because I was coming in. He's allowed to work here just as much as I am. I have no problem with that. I just have no care to talk to the guy. That's fair. If you guys had some beef with each other and it was bad, you know, it is what it is, you know? And it should be professional. If you guys have to work together, just do what you got to do, get the storyline over with, and be done with it. That's it. Tony Khan's not telling you guys, oh, you got to go out and have dinner with each other after the show. No, you don't. If you don't get along with somebody at work, do what you got to do to work. If you got to work with them, and do that and get it over with. Go home. That's all you got to do. $5 million is a lot of fucking money, folks. None of us are making that kind of money in this chat. Nobody's making that. I'm not making that kind of money. I wish I was. Shit, if I was at $5 million, you guys would be seeing a totally different program on this show in one day. I swear to God, the production on this show would be better than JD from New York 206 or any other fucking podcaster on this fucking shit. Oh my gosh. I mean, it's insane. And then let's get into Tony Khan because he is the major fucking problem. CM Punk's the partial problem to all this. But the reason why Tony Khan is the full person to take responsibility for what's happening in his company right now is because he is the fucking owner of the company. He's the one that pays everybody. He writes out the fucking checks. And if you're writing out the checks and you see a bunch of fucking people acting like a couple of nimrods backstage, punching each other out when it's not something usable for live television, I would have said, you dumb fucks, we could be using this for television, man. You guys want to turn this into a personal thing? The hell's wrong with you fucking people? All right. Rachel Buck says AEW locker room sympathizing with MJF after CM Punk meltdown. Yeah, I feel totally bad for this guy. MJF is getting no fucking heat at all from uh Sunday night show. Nothing. He's getting nothing. Now, granted, when we watch Dynamite, I'm sure he's going to gain that momentum back. So I don't think there's anything to be worried about there. But the problem is, after the show was over, none of the focus was on MJF returning. It was all about CM Punk and his antics with the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega getting bitten by fucking Ace. Ace Steel. What the fuck is with Ace Steel? This guy comes out of nowhere. I don't think any of us even fucking knew who Ace Steel was until that segment the night before the pay-per-view, and we're witnessing some random dude pick up a fucking thing, go backstage, and then Cody Rhodes. He might as well be called Cody Rhodes on steroids at this point. CM Punk's fucking acting like a raving lunatic that makes Cody Rhodes look normal. I mean, shit. But you got that going on with CM Punk, and you got this guy randomly showing up. I thought it was some production guy, and he picks up the freaking thing, puts it in the back pocket, walks backstage, appears in the next segment of CM Punk, and he's being introduced as the trainer of CM Punk. That's terrific. And then you're going ahead and biting people? I wonder how much money this guy was making. Probably more than any of us are making right now in our own lives. I bet you this guy's making close to $1 million. Want to bet he's probably making between $150K to $500,000, somewhere in that kind of range. Kiss that money goodbye. What the fuck is wrong with these psychos biting Kenny Omega? If I was Kenny Omega, I'd need him right in the fucking teeth. What a fucking douchebag. Bites him. That motherfucker's got to go. If he ain't fired, I think people are going to stop watching this company. 100% just because of that. This guy does not belong in any kind of line of business. Bites people because there's a fight going on backstage. What the fuck? Oh my gosh. Oh man. All right. So, Matt 87 Eagle said that, and his name is John Cena. Oh, he's talking about when CM Punk faced John Cena. That was an impactful moment of his career. Ellen Mester says Eddie Kingston, I buy into. Yeah, Eddie Kingston's a great guy. I think Eddie Kingston was speaking truth. I don't think he was just spilling a storyline. I believe he fully believes that CM Punk's a fucking phony and has no care whatsoever for this company. Ellen Mester also states that Punk deserves a belt whooping. You mean an ass whooping? Yeah. I hope MJF gives him that ass whooping and kicks him out of town. But yeah. Rachel Buck says AEW's locker room. Oh, yeah, I already talked about that. She also states that Triple H gets promoted to Chief Content Officer in WWE. Terrific for him. I'm sure his wife gave him that promotion. Nothing like knowing people you know. And Ellen Mester says, I wish MJF beats Punk with the belt. Okay. Matthew Consuelo says, W for Triple H. Yep, 100%. Triple H is annihilating AEW, and that's because of what they're doing to themselves. They're beating themselves. It's not even Triple H per se. It's more AEW just killing themselves from within. That's all this is. Now, getting into Tony Khan. Tony Khan needs to start having a backbone. He really needs to fire CM Punk. A suspension, I mean, I'll roll with that. I think that's fair enough. I mean, the guy, CM Punk, does deliver on, merchandise. He does deliver on pay-per-view buys and shit like that. I got to give him the props. I mean, if I'm going to give it to Hulk Hogan for, doing what he did in WWE, he's helping AEW. I can't deny him of that. I'd be an asshole if I didn't. I'd be very biased. But outside of that, folks, is he really worth the risk? Is he really? Like I said before, Cody Rhodes left. Did AEW suffer at all? No. They still got guys like Adam Cole, the Elite. They got MJF on the rise here. Darby Allin, who still is yet to get in his prime yet. This guy's in his mid-20s. Maybe you're, I think he's 27, something like that. Let me see what Darby Allin's age is. If anyone in the chat knows, please let me know. I'll be greatly appreciate it. Darby Allin. There we go. Darby Allin is 29 years old. This guy is still good enough to use for another 10 to 15 years, depending on how well he keeps his body in shape and how well they, monetize his just keeping track and making sure he's not damaging himself too much that his body can't hold up. But this guy has the potential of having at least 15 more years of his career to go if he takes good care of himself. That's something that he might want to consider is reevaluating his wrestling style. Because I think the guy is more than capable of giving us a good matchup without having to throw his body around like a fucking ping pong ball. I mean, this guy is talented. He's not shit. You got fucking... you got Orange Cassidy. He has all the charisma in the world, man. He's funny. He's entertaining. He's everything WWE would love to have. The guy's an entertainer. He's a good wrestler. He's got it all. Orange Cassidy is a very underrated talent in this company. He's 1 minute there, the next minute he's gone. He has this big buildup with him and Chris Jericho. Beats Jericho in a big match at All Out in 2020. And then he gets nothing. He comes back apparently around 2021 for Double or Nothing with a triple threat match with Pac and himself against Kenny Omega for the world title. And Orange Cassidy gets screwed out of the world title. He was so fucking close to winning. And they don't continue on and do anything with that momentum. The crowd was upset that Orange Cassidy got screwed. They wanted him to win. So why not continue with that and work on that and get him to a level where he is believable to win the World Heavyweight Championship? Come on, that was a fuck up and a half. Jungle Boy, he's another one. They're doing a good job with him. I like him. I like what I didn't like the fact the match was so short, but I later found out he got an injury with his, Christian Cage got an injury with his elbow. And I listened to JD's podcast. He did give a very valid response towards anyone that actually was against that. And it changed my mind. He said, look, man, they told a story with Luchasaurus. That was the main focus. What is going on with Luchasaurus? Where is he going? Is he staying with Jungle Boy? Is he going with Christian Cage? And then on top of it, the man's got an injury. So have a short match, have him attack him before the bell rings, and tell a story with Luchasaurus screwing Jungle Boy. There you go. Continue on with that story with Christian Cage and Jungle Boy and don't end it. Continue on with it. I agree. It makes valid sense. Before, it didn't make a lot of sense to me that they went in that direction. I wanted to see an actual match. I enjoyed the attack before the match, but all they had was a 20-second match, which looked like a fucking burial to me. But with that kind of logic, it does make sense. So I'm going to give this storyline a chance and see where TK goes with it. But this guy's got a lot of good, young, talented wrestlers that are not former WWE superstars either. Wheeler Yuta, you give this guy a charismatic character, he could turn into something very valuable to your company. Dante Martin, another one. You got a lot of good, talented wrestlers. Use them. Build on it. The Acclaim's a great tag team. I hope they fucking win the tag team title soon at some point. So, there you go. Rachel Buck says Roman Reigns' next opponent will likely be Kevin Owens. I'm fine with that. I kind of figured that's where it's going to lead to. I think it's either going to be a Crown Jewel or Survivor Series. And Rachel Buck says Ronda Rousey claims she doesn't need a title run in WWE. No, she don't. She's not even really needed in WWE at this point. They need something more impactful. What she did in 2018 was good. What she's doing now is nothing. I'm not really excited about Ronda Rousey and where she's going. I like the interaction that she is having with Adam Pierce, but outside of that, I mean, I don't really give a shit, honestly. Um, but yeah, going into the punishment that CM Punk needs to be, I think he needs to be fired. That's my harsh punishment to him. Honestly, I think that Tony Khan needs to grow a set, take a risk, and walk away from all this shit. They don't need him. He's beneficial financially. I mean, it would be the easy thing to do is just to keep him, suspend him, and that's it. But let's face facts. He even said it in the media scrum. I'm old and I'm tired and I'm beaten down. Okay, you're old, you're tired, and you're beaten down. What the fuck are you doing here then? If you're that fucking grouchy, and that's the reason why it seemed like he was trying to give an explanation of why he was acting the way he was. Seemed like it was not just because he was angry about the situation. Under normal circumstances, he probably wouldn't have given a shit and not talk about it and be professional. But because he was in such a grouchy mood, how much he's banged up, how much he's gone through with his body, it seems to me he needs to retire. So I say, as Tony Khan, I give him his retirement papers and tell him to get the fuck out. That's all. But yeah, if you're wanting to keep CM Punk because you feel that he's a good draw as financial reasons, all right, fine. Suspend him. Me personally, I think they are more than capable enough of doing it without him. I don't think he's very necessary for them to take the risk of him going ahead and doing all this shit. I really don't. I don't think he is really necessary to have around and take the risk of possibly deteriorating your entire locker room and your company as a whole. I just don't. I don't think it's worth the risk. Not for one guy. There's one thing I will agree on Vince McMahon, and I hate saying this, but Vince McMahon said one thing. One wrestler is not more important than the entire company. They're not above the company that they're in. And Tony Khan ought to take that advice. Not that Vince McMahon ever gave a shit about giving advice to other people, but that is some good comment that Vince McMahon said. And Vince McMahon made himself a hypocrite because he made himself higher than the company because he always wanted to be the number one thing, always being around him, centered around him. That's all about him. Fuck him. I'm glad he's gone. Now I can finally enjoy WWE. And AEW has got a situation where a guy thinks he is above the company. He's better than the boss. No, he's not. Without the boss, you wouldn't have $5 million coming to you every year. You should be getting on your hands and knees and kissing his feet, shaking his hand, showing him respect. Don't make him look like a fucking embarrassment. And for that reason, Tony Khan should be pissed at this guy. And that's why I believe he should fire him. 100%. For what he did in the media scrum, I would just suspend him for that. But what he did backstage with the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega with that guy Ace Steel, I'd be like, you're fired. Take your freak friend out of here and you can go right along with him. You guys are fucking nuts. Biting Kenny Omega. Are you fucking sick? You're having a scruffle backstage. You're going to bite him? What are you, Mike Tyson? What the hell's wrong with you? You're friends with this freak? What kind of fucking weird people were working in this company? I'm sorry, man, but I can't defend CM Punk for his actions. I would suspend the Young Bucks. I would say that the Young Bucks should have stayed away from CM Punk, not bother talking to him. Not saying jack shit. That's what I would have said. That's what I would say. I would say that they should have stayed away from him. They didn't have to possibly instigate a problem. You could already tell CM Punk was in a pissed off mood anyway. So in a sense, the Young Bucks could have made a smarter move. Not that maybe they weren't instigating a fight. Maybe CM Punk just got mad and fucking wanted to throw a punch and hit one of them in the fucking face. If that's the case, well, then, My attitude is he should be fired. That's it, man. Fuck him. Fire his ass. That's all there is to it. This guy is not professional. He wasn't professional at media scrum. That's a suspension. And then throwing punches at people because you're having an argument backstage is not necessary. None of what he did on Sunday night was necessary at all. But whatever, man. It is what it is, and I think CM Punk should be fired based on throwing punches. Hey, Eddie Kingston, all he did was pie Sammy Guevara in the face. It's not like he came at him and tried to punch him out. He didn't go all out crazy. He just explained why he did what he did. He was mad at him for saying shit like that, which was just a miscommunication between the two. That's all it was. And there's no harm, no foul between the two of them anymore. It's been resolved. So, I mean, he just has an anger issue. It bothered him. And, he did what he had to do with the advice that Tony Khan asked him to do during his suspension. And he did it. No big deal. But this is sick. It's fucking demented. It's a very unsafe work environment, if you want to get technical. And CM Punk made it very unsafe in work environment by throwing the first punch. Now, if he didn't and the Young Bucks did, which there's rumor that's a possibility it happened, I don't know. I can't really say 100% because all these wrestling critics seem to say shit that, aren't correct. They're misinformation. So that's another thing we have to take into account for. So we can't take everything we hear as 100% godly information. It's just possibly true, possibly not. So we got to take it with a grain of salt. That's all there is to it. Anyway, let me go ahead and read the rest of the comments in the chat, and then we'll call it a night because I pretty much killed everything I had to say here in a nutshell. Matt87 Eagle says fine and suspend Punk and the Elite. Yeah, I agree. I think the Elite deserve a suspension, not to be fired. I don't think they should be doing that, but definitely a suspension is needed. They could have just avoided the whole conversation with Punk and left it at that. They didn't need to escalate it to another level, which is kind of possibly what happened, and that's what led to CM Punk punching them in the face. Matthew Consuelo says, are you defending the Elite World of Wrestling? Yeah, I think Elite deserves to be defended. I don't think that what CM Punk did at the media scrum was right. I don't think he needed to keep reiterating shit like that in a context of a performance, which these press conferences should be about the show, about the storylines, who's next in line for a world title, your attitude and what you're going to do, your mindset and how you're going to beat your opponent. Shit like that should be going on. And other things like surprises, ideas that are possibly going to happen in the future, that kind of stuff. But none of this personal shit. It wasn't necessary. That's just the way I feel about it. Rachel Buck says Gunther is open to getting involved in WWE NXT Europe. Okay, great. He's already in WWE as the IC champion. So Ella Messer says AC or S A. I'm getting tongue tied here. A Steel might be getting arrested. I think he should. CM Punk should be arrested. I mean, if he assaulted them first. I mean, that's assault and battery, man. Come on. This was not part of a show. This was not being, recorded on a camera for it to be used as television content. This was a serious thing taking place backstage. This wasn't meant to happen. This is the same thing that Bret Hart did to Vincent McMahon when he punched him in the fucking eye. I mean, technically, I think he might have had a right to do that, could have at least told the guy, hey, I'm not doing what you want. This is the way it is. Don't like it. Don't show up at the pay-per-view. Go fuck yourself. That's what I'd have said to Bret Hart. I wouldn't have just went behind his back, changed the way the match was going to end, and just ring the bell without him tapping out and them just calling the bell and giving the bell to Shawn Michaels. That was somewhat wrong, I thought. But Same time, I mean, Bret Hart was fighting with the creator of the company, and you just don't do that. I mean, it is what it is. Just do what you got to do. You're going off to another company to get paid more money while the other company's struggling to survive against the company you're going to. So I don't think Vince McMahon had any reason whatsoever to feel sorry for this son of a bitch. And that was something I disliked about Bret Hart. I thought that was really shitty on his part. He shouldn't have gave a flying fuck who he was giving the belt to because he wasn't going to be in WWE for very much longer after he gave the belt up. So who cares? He's going to another company for more money. So fuck him. That's what I've been in my attitude. Matt at 87 Eagle says everyone is in the wrong about the backstage antics that's going on. Ellen Messer says, no, the black eye and biting is what an assault is. Well, yeah. I mean, I totally understand that. That should warrant an arrest. Yeah, I agree with you, man. I think that Ellen Messer, you're 100% right. I think that this is a legal issue, which is rumored that that's going to take place. Um, there could be a possibility that the Young Bucks take him to court for assault and battery, maybe. Um, but this shit is out of line and it's totally unprofessional. I mean, WWE said what CM Punk did in their company was unprofessional, but what he did here was totally fucked up. 100% fucked up. This is not something I ever thought CM Punk would do. And boy, was I fucking wrong. But anyway, guys, at this time, there's nothing more I have to say on this. I pretty much nailed it into the fucking coffin. And now I'm just going to go ahead and bury it with the good old Undertaker shovel, the golden shovel, and call it a night. So at this time, guys, I appreciate you coming in. Hit that like button if you like this video. Hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed to the channel. And leave a comment down below, and I'll definitely get back to you on that. Thank you guys very much for watching. Have a great night, and it was very enjoyable interacting with you guys tonight. You made this live stream very successful, and I appreciate it from you guys. Speak to you later. Bye.